All right, we are live. Welcome to another episode of the Amazon Seller News Live. It's Friday again already, which is crazy. I said last week time flies, and it just does. But we've got a lot of really good news this week. I think it's going to be a lot of fun and some great people with me today. So we've got Danon Coleman. He's over at Ecom Triage. So some changes from the past if you've watched and listened, and we'll dive into that a little bit. But then we've also got Stephen Pope from My Amazon Guy, of course.
Hey guys.
And Corey Ganem as well joining us. What's the name of your YouTube channel again, Corey?
So it's just at Corey Ganem.
At Corey Ganem. Okay, perfect. All right, and Corey's got a lot of great information selling on Amazon and stuff as well. So without further ado, before we dive into the news, if you're on YouTube or Facebook watching this, feel free to put comments about the news. Try to stick to the news, but if you have questions or comments about it, post it in there. And if they're appropriate, we'll bring them into the show and discuss those as well. So
no trolling, no spamming.
Yes, absolutely.
Or at least keep it to a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
So first one here from $1 Billion Sellers newsletter. And this is one that I put under strong opinion. So we'll see what everybody's thoughts are here. But no honeymoon period. Successful launches require strategy. Amazon's honeymoon period for new product launches is now considered a myth, with recent data showing no guaranteed visibility boost for new items. Instead, Amazon relies on data-driven ranking systems, initially using prediction based on similar products and then updating rankings as real user interaction data accumulates. For sellers, this means focusing on targeted traffic, high quality content, and ongoing optimization to succeed. The shift to AI driven models and semantic search underscores the need for listings to be relevant and engaging from day one to maximize visibility. And since we haven't had you on in a little while, Corey, let's throw it right over to you to get your initial thoughts.
Yeah, so it's a little outside my area of expertise since I don't do a ton of launching new products, but I do know of the other like really big, really successful private label sellers that I know. I've always heard from them that the honeymoon period is a thing. It's always been a thing, but I guess maybe the recent change is that it's no longer a thing. And it sounds to me like Amazon's basically saying, hey, we're not going to give you increased reach in the beginning. You're just going to have to make better listings, right? Or write your listing better from an SEO perspective to then rank. So probably is a good change because it's just going to make it more competitive and make it that much, make the barrier to entry that much higher.
So what's not clear to me is this Amazon announcing this, or is this just conjecture from Kevin King?
Yeah, go ahead. Conjecture, but it's also from an article published by Dream 100 member Danny McMillan. So
okay, because
it's an opinion. That's why I put it under strong opinion rather than the news.
All right, because my hot take is bullshit. There is no way that the
I knew you were gonna do that.
Go like straight away. Now that doesn't mean that their overarching premise here to have a quality product makes sense, right? But that goes without saying. You could still have 100 high quality products, but the one guy that understands the honeymoon period and optimizes for it, he's going to do better than the other 99. It's just point blank. Like, it's just common sense. If you optimize for CTR, PPC, SEO, design, and have all those things ready, and you don't launch the product until it's checked into FBA, it's going to sell better. If you don't launch if you launch the product without A+ content, it's not going to do as well as the next guy who has A+ content. Right. So all of these things are structured for optimization, and they're not specifically honeymoon period optimization things. They just help sales in general. But the guy that shows up and has a higher propensity of sales in a short time period is going to train that algorithm faster. It's just logical.
Yep, for sure. And I actually highlighted, and then we'll come over to you, Danon.
Yeah.
But it says instead it employs a system that uses prior prediction values based on similar products, historical performance to initially rank new items. and then transitions to a posterior prediction value once real user data starts accumulating. So to me, that sounds like a honeymoon period.
Yes.
Because they're relying off of other products. So I think the key thing in here, while there is still a honeymoon period, they are saying that it is no longer a fixed 30-day window, I think is one of the key things that they're pointing out, that it's more quickly switching over to real world data than anything.
Yeah.
I could buy that. 100% could buy that.
Yeah, so I think that the honeymoon period is just changing into more of an algorithmic. The very short version is because that video there is an hour long, and it's highly technical. I only watched like 10 minutes of it, and it's like, wow, this is deep in the woods. Which personally, that's not my thing. Like, just give me the gloss over the top, and I'll be like, okay, it sounds like this. And if the person says yes, it's that, like, great, now I understand. So this is like a really, really long version to basically say shit's changing, and it's going to, but like Steven said, it's still going to rely upon, just like your honeymoon period does, rely upon having a well-built listing, well-researched, all that good stuff, A+ content, all the keywords, all that stuff done right in the beginning when you launch. So even if there's no honeymoon period any longer, all it means is that you're going to have worse algorithmic placement due to having a worse listing, or better algorithmic placement and all that stuff. And it all relies upon the same thing as the honeymoon period, which is having a good listing.
Right. Like bottom line, the fundamentals don't change, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I too would rather talk to the taxi cab driver than the statistician. Like, screw statistics. Let's talk to the taxi cab drivers about how to sell.
The guy with all the statistics up in his freshly haired head there.
Just got back from Istanbul, Turkey. Brutal hair transplant 7 days ago. Look like a chia seed pet right now, for those that are wondering. But yeah, let's assume that these guys were right for just a brief moment. That the honeymoon period no longer exists. What would you change? What, as an Amazon seller, what behavior would you change?
Nothing.
And I can't come
Not much. I mean, the only thing that it stands out to me is that supposedly it's going to rank you depending on how well a product matches with successful existing items. So perhaps
which is
you want to tailor your copy and things to more closely match whatever your competitors are targeting.
I think people do that already.
Yeah, I mean, I see it as the whole announcement is a moot point, right? Like, it doesn't change anything that anybody should be doing. So, I mean, obviously it's something worth discussing, because if it's valid, then, it's worth having a conversation. But in general, again, not going to change the way anybody's doing anything, or at least shouldn't.
Yeah, I don't think it's not necessary. I don't necessarily think it's a moot point so much as it is, look at all of the information that goes into doing a proper launch. Honeymoon period, no, you cannot put up one image and launch with zero inventory any longer, right? That's a very, very detailed explanation of do your work right the first time, rather than having to redo it 3 times, spend 5 times as long, whatever it is, and then not make as much money because you don't have any velocity because you launched a crappy listing to begin with. But there are definitely Amazon sellers out there, Steven, this, that they want every freaking detail about whatever it is that they're doing. Probably 60% of them, made up statistic, by the way, don't take any action whatsoever. They just want all the information. The other 40% are genuine, like, numbers nerds, which God love them. But that's not this guy,
The action dictates the strategy. If people watch content like what we're putting on today, and then they don't take any action, then what was the point? It's just entertainment. And we're not funny enough to just be entertainment, guys. Like, we have to give you guys something actionable to leave after viewing today's session. And here's some news. Some of it's going to be important, others is not. Our job is to decipher what's actionable. And this one, I'd say no, not actionable.
Yeah. So the one that I show on the screen right now, I'm curious on your guys' thoughts on that. And now this isn't necessarily anything that's changed, but they're really highlighting generating more external traffic through platforms like Google Ads and social media. So what are your thoughts, Stephen? What are you seeing at My Amazon Guy in terms of how much external traffic pushes a listing, especially in the beginning?
So I actually every year I'll do an algorithm update, like SEO nerfs and buffs, if you will, patch notes, if you will. So I'm going to find my graphic for the latest one. But in essence, I have not seen a very big difference between the last couple of years with external traffic plays.
Really?
So here's my 2021 graphic. If you want to pull that up on screen, Todd.
Yep.
And I'll kind of show you what I've seen over time here. So here's 2021. And if we look for, offsite sales, I gave that a buff back in 2021. And I, over time, have continuously nerfed reviews, right? So you can see reviews took a hit back in 2021. I'm just Googling SEO patch notes, My Amazon Guy, just to find my own graphics because I've built so much content. It's easier to just Google it sometimes. But here's my 2023 one, just for some perspective. And I moved click-through rate up considerably, right? And I'm seeing click-through rate be the fastest way to grow sales on Amazon. But the external sales, which I'm actually not even seeing listed for some reason here.
Offsite sales, you have it there.
Offsite, there we go. Is still pretty static, right around that 9.5% marker. I didn't move this for 4 years on my patch notes.
Right.
And
So it's important, but not all important.
Yeah. So keep in mind, nobody really knows. Amazon doesn't even know.
Yeah.
Anything you see on screen here is totally made up. And it's a finger in the air. But I have access to 400 accounts that I actively manage. 1 out of every 200 transactions on Amazon goes through My Amazon Guy. And so this is our best understanding of what we're seeing today. So having said that, is external traffic good? 100%. You should go get external traffic. If you have a product that can do well on TikTok and you're not hiring TikTok influencers, I think you're crazy. You should jump all over that. But still today in 2024, it's cheaper to advertise directly on Amazon using sponsored products than there is any other platform in the world for an e-commerce brand selling on Amazon.
Yep. Well, and it makes sense that Amazon would not necessarily prioritize, but would look favorably upon external traffic because you're taking people that weren't on Amazon and you're bringing them to Amazon, right? Where they're more than likely going to spend money and spend a good amount of time. So yeah, like you said, it's like if you don't have some sort of strategy in place for driving traffic off Amazon to Amazon, especially if your product is a good candidate for, going viral via TikTok, for example, then, that's something you should get going ASAP.
Yeah. Now, in the beginning, though, Amazon, I believe, did penalize.
Oh, they did.
Traffic.
Oh, yeah. They penalized you hard. Now,
I didn't realize that.
Oh, yeah. This is
why, but why? And why is that? Because at least logically
you're
speaking, I would think that wouldn't it make sense that it's like, oh, wouldn't they, if anything, give you more incentive to drive external traffic because you're bringing
totally
people
make sense.
onto the platform?
You would absolutely think that. But the thing is it crashed your conversion rate. And when your conversion rate crashed, Amazon went, wow, this product totally sucks. Let's, degrade them in the ranking. Right. So, I would, at that time, I was driving Google traffic. And when I saw my sales go down, I'm like, all right, screw this. Besides, Amazon at that time was advertising my product on Google direct to my listing page. So why would I even bother paying for it? Right. So now that's not to say they've got it right, because Amazon wants that traffic, but at the end of the day, they don't make money on the traffic that you spend. You need to be converting, right?
Yep.
And Steve, you've got just so much more information about this than I do, because I don't launch products. I haven't launched a product in maybe 7 years now, 6 years, been selling the same product. So, and I don't run ads. So I'm not even really the guy to talk about this, but I have had the opportunity to speak to tons of sellers. But Stephen Pope is boots on the ground in their accounts. What do you think about that?
So I have an opinion that traffic is more important than conversion. And the reason I feel that way is because Amazon has already solved for conversion, right? An average listing today is 10% conversion. Now, if you were going to try and double your sales, it would take you 7 times the resources to double your conversion rate than to just simply double your traffic, right? And so because that statement is very defensible, I think that any traffic is good traffic, even at the cost of a conversion point loss. But from my experience, I don't typically see a conversion loss when we spike the traffic, even from external sources. Now, having said that, if you take bad traffic and send it to your Amazon listing, there's no point to that, right? If you're buying 1 cent clicks from a link farm in India, obviously none of that's going to help you. But if you're targeting legitimate customers who have a legitimate interest in the product and you're using the right keywords or you're using the right demographic targeting on an external play of some kind, I would say that it's going to be favorable. Now, the last thing I'll caveat here is that even if it is favorable, that doesn't mean the ROI is as good as just simply spending an extra $10,000 on Amazon sponsored products. And this is the problem that I've had as an agency. You know, I called my agency my Amazon guy. That's worked out very well for me. And I've 95% of the money I make is all Amazon native brands. But I have a very hard time getting brands to succeed outside of the Amazon realm. And it's because the ROI is just so damn good within Amazon's ecosystem. You don't have to go outside of it. So this is why I always, I look at external traffic and I'm like, yeah, it's good. But, unless you're spending $50K a month on sponsored products, you haven't hit your diminishing returns yet. Interesting.
So then that makes me wonder, and I want to ask you, what are your thoughts on diversification off of Amazon? It sounds, what's that?
Overblown. Right?
Overblown.
People always talk about it. It's kind of like teenage sex. Everybody thinks everybody else is doing it, but nobody really is.
Interesting. So at what point would you say that a brand should do that?
When they hit diminishing returns.
Okay. And how would you determine that?
If you're static for 12 months.
Okay.
And you tried to spend an extra 25% on ads and it made no meaningful difference, or you spent an extra 25% on ads and the ACoS became completely overturned or unproductive.
Okay.
Right?
So you basically hit the max obtainable market for that product.
Correct.
Now, so here's my next question. Would you then just launch another product, or would you then diversify that product off of Amazon, go into Walmart, Shopify, blah, 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 all those other places?
I mean, this is a question of complexity, systems, and scale. If you open yourself up to doing more than one thing, what happens? You end up doing the one thing that's working worse, right?
Sure.
And it takes more resources to do these alternative platforms. Now, you're never going to hear me bash Shopify. You're never going to hear me bash these alternative platforms because they're all good, right? We could bring on guests who probably only do Shopify and have never touched Amazon, right?
Sure.
And they could be doing hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yep.
But for my audience and for the people that I speak to, they're almost exclusively native born Amazon brands. And every time we talk about or test these other platforms, it is the ROI is never realized. And it could be that I'm just not a very good Shopify expert. It could be that I don't know how to run Google Ads as compared to Amazon. I don't think that's it. I think it's more of it's just the ROI is just so good on Amazon. And over the last couple of years, we all have a lot of complaints about Amazon. Fees are up. Maturity of the platform. It's getting harder. All those statements are simultaneously true.
Couple years or a couple decades?
Yeah. I mean, it's been really, really hard basically in the last 3 years, right?
Yeah.
But essentially, the ROI on Amazon is still very good, right? The ease of use. You can get up and running in 6 weeks on Amazon. You can do all these things. So would I diversify my own products and brand in 2024? No. Do I do that for my clients? No. Do I want to charge them to do it for my clients? Yes. But I don't necessarily go out of my way to force it to them. So it's usually for the brands that are static that I really come in and say, hey, I feel strongly about this. You should go off platform.
Okay. Cool.
Absolutely. Well, and I think Nikolai here maybe summed it up the best. There's a reason everyone places
Yep.
such strong importance on the basics. Stick
Yeah.
to the basics, do everything that you need to do for your listing, and let the algorithm be the algorithm.
Yeah.
Basic scale.
Yep. I'll bet you guys will all agree with me on this. Like, and granted, I'm no professional at building listings. My wife does it because I'm actually crap at it. But I can't tell you how many sellers I've seen say I need to spend more on ads, or I need to have better sales on PPC when they have a crap listing. You know, the basics
Yes.
are literally the foundation of your building, right? And if you don't have all of those in, and I'm sure Steven, I think you've got a course on this. You probably have 3 courses on this. But you know, if you don't build the base of your building first, and you're trying to build on top of that on a shaky foundation, you will always have problems. You will always have issues with conversion or whatever, all those issues that Amazon sellers have if you don't have your basics in. So I like start there. Always start there.
And those are going to be expensive issues too, right?
Yeah.
By trying to build upon a shaky foundation, it's going to cost you so much more money. Your ads are going to be more expensive. Like you said, your conversions are going to be less.
Yep.
So all in all, it's like just try to get it right from the start, or make changes, make optimizations as quickly as possible, and then look to build upon that foundation once it's solid.
Yeah.
Doing it any
Nice.
other way is a nightmare.
Yep.
For sure.
Nice. So easy stud rack. Yeah, that's cool. Doing the buy with Prime.
That's why most are buy with Prime, which that's probably true for a lot of people now. It's like we talked about last week, right? When we talked about Amazon eliminating brands, that the trust for people is in Amazon now, where it used to be in brands. Brands still play a big part, of course, but people trust Amazon. So the buy with Prime button, for example, on a Shopify site, just having that trust eliminates the need for people to worry about it. You know, like you said, Stephen, the ROI and such is lower outside of Amazon, and that probably plays a big role, just the trust that Amazon has built.
Yeah.
My favorite way to impact that statement is to simply ask this question. What was the last item you bought on Amazon? And everybody listening to this, think about that last item. Cool. What was the name of the brand? Usually
Amazon.
about 9% of people can answer that question.
Yeah.
And if they can't answer that question, I hit them with the follow-up, which is, cool, what was the name of the seller? And nobody ever gets that one. So
yeah.
Amazon has killed or commoditized items or killed branding. And obviously luxury brand exceptions, Apple brands, whatever, household name brands, those are all true. But by and large, you have to win with a click, right? Click-through rate, most important thing to do in 2024 to grow sales on Amazon, because you're competing with 17,000 other products that are lookalikes.
Yep, for sure. Well, the last item I bought was a new Bible for my wife. So officially the brand is God. That one I do know.
But unfortunately, he didn't print it.
Yeah, right.
Yes. I do not know who printed it.
Yeah.
Or
Who
who
was
the
the seller
seller was.
Yeah.
But,
And I last bought a Kindle Paperwhite, so mine is Amazon and Amazon on Amazon.
there you go. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next story here. Now, this is article specifically about TikTok, but it really has to do with any platform. So why Q5 is a golden opportunity for advertisers. The Q5 period, the time between Christmas and the end of January, offers Amazon sellers a powerful opportunity to capture post-holiday shoppers' activity looking to spend gift cards and holiday cash. This period sees a surge in consumer engagement and less competitive ad space, allowing sellers to stretch their budgets further on TikTok's efficient platform or Amazon. Consumers tend to engage in self-care and New Year shopping with interesting categories like fitness, skincare, and finance on the rise. By leveraging ad formats and commerce tools like shoppable videos, brands can drive conversions and maintain strong post-holiday sales. So thoughts on that? Let's go over to Danon first this time on Q5, because now is probably the time. You know, the preparation for Q4 is kind of past. Hopefully you're done with that. Now we're looking at Q5.
Yeah. So I think this is totally true, because in supplements see a surge in sales end of December, beginning of January. I myself, as a shopper, I will buy my stuff afterwards. And we also know that Q4, yeah, there's a ton of sales. Q5, Q1 next year, there is a ton of returns, just a gargantuan amount of returns, right? So I would absolutely, I'm not saying don't advertise for Q4, of course, but I think there's absolutely opportunity here because tons of people don't know what to get their friend or loved one or whatever. So they just go, what do you want? Here's money. And then at that time, when people get that money for Christmas, they are definitely primed for purchase. So I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's definitely an important period. And as Stephen Pope said there, weird them calling it Q5. I agree with that.
Never, yeah. And I was going to ask.
I've never heard that
we
either,
got
but it's
okay.
smart.
15 months in the year now. But
Yeah.
it's a marketing
Yeah.
term. It's kind of a cool idea to think of, consider it in addition to Q4.
Yeah, which is a quarter, which is 25 out of 100. So, it makes
advertising companies saying spend more ads during a time period. Always a little
fair
shocking.
point. Fair point.
Yes,
I still think it's legit though. I do think that there's definitely a available ad space to make sales after Christmas.
Well, I think the niche example you gave too, supplements, health month is January. That is when Christmas is for supplements. I mean, January 1st is the best day of the year for many, many supplement brands. But my home goods or my gift giving brands, they fall off a cliff. Like 3% of my Christmas sales in January.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I guess yeah, that's a very good point. It is going to be category based, right? Which is why they did give us a couple of categories there. Like probably nobody's buying bikinis in December when they get their December cash, I mean, I do for myself, but that's just,
Corey, with
everybody's
your host
buying
bill,
the gym memberships to get prepared for their
Yeah.
beach bodies.
Yeah,
Exactly. And one perspective I was going to add from a reseller's perspective, right, is that every single year, January is traditionally our third best month. So December's the best by far, followed by November, and then January, and then October, right? So, and I was talking about this with my team this week. I was like, we really see Q4 more as November through January. Obviously, October is still good, but the sales are still very strong. There's a small lull of a few days right after Christmas. But then, I feel like the second half of the week between Christmas and New Year's, it really picks up. And then the whole month of January, people are spending gift card money. People are spending Christmas cash. Like you said, definitely category specific, but overall, January sales are strong. And again, for resellers like myself, the takeaway here is that you really just want to be proactive in communicating with your vendors throughout the holiday season and kind of working around their holiday schedule to make sure that you can get your orders in and get your stuff in stock to accommodate that January rush, right? Because the worst thing you can do is be out of blow through everything through Christmas and then you're coming into January with very low inventory. That's a recipe for a slow month and when it should be a really strong month.
Yeah, for me, so I sell a lot of sporting goods in the sporting goods category, and outside of December, my best month is March.
Really? Oh yeah, because I guess springtime. I used to sell. There was a patio lawn and garden brand that we sold for a number of years, and every year March and April were our biggest months because this brand just crushed it in March and April. Very, very spring seasonal.
Yeah.
Now, Stephen, though, you would agree that the cost for ads significantly drops off after Q4, no?
That might be category dependent as well, because the traffic available also drops off. So if there are less people advertising, but there's also way less traffic, then you would assume the cost would be in sync. From my experience, I have my best ACOS of the year from November 1, basically all the way up to December 20th. And that is a general statement. There's exceptions. In January, if you're in supplements, that should be your best ACOS though, right? So category dependent. I would love to hear, a lot of the things that Corey sees in the wholesale model, the retail model, because he is, probably Going to see a lot of changes through the year, and the products that he chooses to buy based on when they sell hot or not, and when there's a good deal available from retail. So I want to pass it over to Corey here on this one.
Yeah. So, and is the question mainly still around like which time of year do you see a better ACOS? Like, can you clarify the question there?
Yeah, I mean that's how Todd posed it to me. But you may not be advertising as much with your model, but what maybe you see is a traffic change.
Yeah. So one thing I will say on the advertising front. So one thing that we've implemented back in September 2020 is an ad campaign that we like to call the catch-all campaign, right? I think, Stephen, you recommended. I know a lot of resellers use this campaign. And what it is just a fixed 5-cent bid auto campaign for every product in our inventory, right? So we just throw products in there. And I do know that during Q4 and post Q4, again, we're only spending 5 cents per click. So it's not like we're spending much money in terms of dollar amount, but the activity of spend, right, will go from spending, a very small amount most days to 3, 4, 5x just on that smaller auto campaign during that time period. And that gets us a lot of just really low hanging fruit sales, right? Our ACOS on that campaign lifetime is like 2%, and our ROAS is over 40 to 1. I mean, it's like 42 or 43 to 1. So that campaign has consistently increased our monthly sales by 10% every month. And I'd say during November and December, probably, I don't have the exact data on it, but probably even 12 to 15%. Like, that's how powerful that campaign is that time of year.
Stephen, you're still muted.
Speaking of time of year, I think July is the weakest month. Is that what you guys see too?
Unless you're selling sunscreen,
Yeah.
which some people inside my community were killing it with sunscreen this past summer, which is traditional.
But even then, sunscreen, I'm going to guess if you're selling sunscreen, you're going to peak still probably maybe March and April as people buy in preparation. You're still going to get the repeat sales as they use the bottle or people who run out. But I'm going to guess they're still peaking in March and April for that even.
There's a very large brand of fly traps. It actually goes to #1 in patio, lawn, and garden in the main category that we got our hands on this past summer. And that really peaks around August, I would say. But I mean, again, as a reseller, we have options with which we can get seasonal when we want to, and we can sell evergreen when we want to as well. So, sourcing some of those seasonal products for the summer can really, I guess, prevent that from being one of your slower times, and if you don't want it to be.
Yep.
So I'm seeing on my side that oddly enough, February, March are, well, except for last year. But February, March, April is when I typically see my lower months.
Okay.
Yeah.
It all depends on your products. February and March, everybody's already given up on their New Year's resolutions and no longer buying your supplements.
If you're selling snack foods in February and March, you're probably doing pretty well.
Yeah, I'll go into beef sticks February, March.
Sell some donuts and candy and chocolate.
Exactly. Hey, Todd, there was a comment from Steve Fillion here that I wanted to address real quick. It says, if you had a product with variations, would it be better to create the other title listing with slightly different keywords to get more ranking juice? Now, I think that that's a dangerous game to play. Not that I don't necessarily support it, but if you're taking something that's an existing product on Amazon and you're slapping on a different ASIN, but it's really the same product, unless there's something and you're just trying to mop up more keywords, I'd say no to that unless there's a distinct variation of some sort that you can use to promote it to a completely different demographic or niche. But yeah, I want to know what you guys think on that. That's my opinion.
I got strong opinions on this one. So I think, Dana, what you're talking about might be separate from what Steve is inquiring about.
Okay.
So, let's say you got color variations or scent variations. It's totally fine to have different titles for this. Some categories, though, lock down the parent title and then throw the child variation name at the end of it, which can prevent this in certain categories.
I see.
But I do think having customized SEO titles where it makes sense is helpful. So, for example, I sold mom boxes, and in some mom boxes I had different items. And so obviously the title is going to be custom based on that. And then back to kind of Danon's idea, I actually do embrace selling the same product to two different types of customers. So
Yeah.
for example, you might have a pet treat that is both for dogs and cats. If you make a singular ASIN that has both cats and dogs on that ASIN, your sales are going to be this. It might be good, it might be bad, but they're this. Okay. Now, imagine if you split that ASIN in half. Now you have two ASINs, one for cats, one for dogs.
Yeah.
Your sales are going to be up here almost guaranteed. Why? Because a dog owner that goes to a listing and sees cats is going to abandon that page so fast. They don't want to feed their dog a cat treat, and vice versa. The cat owners don't want to feed their cat a dog treat. So by having that ICP embracement, this is something that we've seen in hundreds of years of corporate retail, taking the same item and packaging it two different ways and calling it two different products.
Yeah.
You can go down to Target today, go down the aisle, go to Dove, and look at the shampoo bottles on the left. You see all the female ones. They're cutesy. They're super small. You look at the other side of the aisle. It's for men. You see a giant bottle. And then you start, and it's cheaper, by the way, ironically. Cheaper bottle, bigger. And then you go look at the back of the labels, and you're looking at those labels, and you're saying, this is the same damn product.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what people do in retail.
Yeah.
Which
Customize the packaging for your audience for sure.
which I fully support. And so I understood this as him basically duplicating the listing and going after different keywords, which I think we all agree is not recommended. Yes.
No, I wouldn't think so.
I'm
No, you have to have a different UPC at least to do
I'm
that.
suggesting that you should only do that if you can sell to two different customers.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
it's essentially two different offers, more or less.
It is, but you
Same
would,
product, but packaged differently.
and
Correct.
usually, exactly. You would do different packagings to cater to that audience. But if you're just going to duplicate a product, even if you slap a different ASIN on, you're toying with breaking terms of service as a seller. You can't sell the same product on the same seller account. And I mean, some people get away with it, but I don't recommend that. So, but yeah, if it sounds like, Steve, you're understanding this as he wants to do custom titles for each variation, which I would say, yes, of course, if it makes sense, and you can, because it's tailored to that variation. But okay, cool. Yeah, I just want to cover that real quick because I understood that question differently.
Steve gave some clarification. He says unscented dishwasher detergent or dishwashing detergent unscented. I don't think that'll have any impact with the word change on an exact match.
Words.
Yeah.
Now, if you changed up the words a little bit, different ways to say dishwashing detergent and unscented to target different keywords, that would be beneficial.
Yep.
Agreed.
For sure.
I mean, that would be more of a PPC thing.
I'll just throw this up on the screen just to point it out. We got Ona watching the show. She was one of the people who penned the article that we talked about first, the no honeymoon period, at least the article that article was about.
Yeah.
So cool.
I think it's Wana.
Wana?
Oh yeah. Wana or Wana.
Yeah, could be. Sorry about that if I butchered that.
Always fun to engage with people and see the real world conversations. Helps the whole community.
Yes. And thank you, Wana, for writing that article. It was a lot of good information for sure. And
super in depth.
While as we discussed, it may not change our launch strategy necessarily. It's good to know how the algorithm is changing, at least how we think it's changing.
Yeah, cool.
All right. Well, let's jump on to our next article here. And so this one is from John Elder.
Yes.
Amazon redirects customers to competitors on your listing. So Amazon has implemented a quote new feature, not necessarily new, but seems to be moving across the categories, that redirects customers from your product listings to competitors. A change affecting mobile users in select categories like furniture and clothing. Amazon sellers have no option to opt out, raising concerns for brands investing heavily in their listings. The feature frustrates sellers, and some, like John Elder, suggest it could merit investigation by the FTC. This change highlights Amazon's customer-focused model, which often leaves brand owners at a disadvantage. And some people might say that it's not a big deal. You already got tons of your competitors' ads on your listing and stuff. But I think the key difference on this is it's like an Instagram where you're linking products. And typically when you link products, you're linking to the actual product you're displaying. But in this case, they're taking advantage of your photos to link your product to someone else's product. Thoughts? Let's go over to Corey.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not surprising that Amazon is doing something along these lines, only because I feel like every move they make is what they think is in the best interest of the customer.
Yeah.
So if they feel like they can put a product in front of a customer that they're more likely to convert on, whether it's your product, whether it's Steven's product, they don't really care whose product it is. If it works, it works. And chances are they wouldn't roll something out like this if they didn't have data to support it. So, I mean, do I think it's fair? No, not necessarily. Do I think it warrants some sort of investigation by the FTC? Maybe, maybe not. But I just feel like, again, this is another attempt by Amazon to cater to the customer at the expense of brands.
Yeah.
I think it's Amazon being Amazon.
Yeah.
Agreed. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, technically you do pay Amazon for the space of your listing, right? You pay them for that. So
once you submit your listing, it says in their agreement that it becomes the property of Amazon. It's not.
Yeah, that listing is basically leased, essentially, right? You don't own it, more or less.
Yes.
Yeah.
You just sell on the listing.
They're the landlord on the listing.
I guess this is one of those landlords that has the keys to your place and comes in and just checks out what's going on every now and again and then makes changes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I'm putting up this steel wall and it's nothing you can do about it because it's my house.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
they just, the landlord comes in and swaps out your Samsung TV for a Hisense if he feels like it.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, this definitely sucks. That being said, if you happen to be one of the products that are high converting and you're getting tons of sales and stuff like that, this is going to benefit you as a seller. But the smaller sellers, especially people that are just starting out, and I would wager that this is going to just happen on highly competitive products where there's tons and tons of different sellers of, like, you see this is on a shirt, right? We know that apparel on Amazon is, there's just so many different options. They'll probably do the same thing in supplements because there's so many different options for the same thing. But will they do it on Dawn dish soap? If you're doing like a 7th generations or a homemade soap or something like that, are they going to do it on there? I'd say probably not.
Yeah.
However,
look
what they did with batteries.
What's that? Oh,
they did it with batteries.
Yeah, they did a full page takeover and they crushed Duracell and Energizer and they pushed
Amazon base. Yeah.
They put Amazon Basics batteries,
giant banners at the top of their listings, like some sure monopoly terrible practices.
Mm-hmm.
So this is definitely Amazon's MO. It's also a feature you see in alternative Amazon platforms like House, Pinterest, etc. So it makes sense. Here's my takeaway though. If you want to sell a new product on Amazon, I would not pick clothing.
Yeah, me neither.
No, hell no.
I wouldn't go into clothing if you paid me to go into
No,
clothing.
I was going to say I wouldn't do it if I had the backing of millions of dollars. I wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, it's just the returns alone is frustrating. But
yeah,
hard.
What really bothers me about this, as opposed to all the other ads around our listings already, anyways, is it's fairly obvious to understand that those ads are for other brands and stuff, where I could see this being confusing for a customer. And I know we said that people don't care about brands, but let's say they clicked over to this shirt because it's a brand they bought before.
Mm-hmm.
And then they click on the dot and they're probably going to assume that it's products that the same brand seller is selling.
I think you're right.
Brand.
Yep.
And so I could see a little confusion for the customer in that.
Yep. I can also see that once Amazon has vetted this and fully implemented it, that you can pay to not have those there.
Oh, I'm sure. I could see that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see. It's definitely a little frustrating, but it's Amazon being Amazon. It'll be interesting to see if it rolls out to a lot of other categories or not.
Yeah.
I don't think it will.
I don't. Yeah. I'm with you on that.
Well, we'll see. We'll have to keep an eye on it.
John's got lots of good information, though. He does some good data on his posts and his
Yeah.
newsletter. I like watching his stuff.
Yeah, he always has a strong take on it too.
Yeah.
Which is good. A little bit of hyperbolic ness to it, but that's okay. It gets
Yep.
eyeballs and attention. So,
Yep.
all right. Well, if we got nothing else on that, let's go ahead and jump on to our last one here. So this is from our friends over at Smart Scout.
Yep.
Let me get to that summary.
I used to be
So
on that
top
list.
cities for Amazon sellers, and I'll jump down to the graph here because that's the interesting part.
Jeez.
So Amazon seller map shows a major shift with Chinese cities now dominating the top ranks for Amazon sellers worldwide. Now, this isn't brands. This is the actual seller on Amazon. Shenzhen leads with over 102,000 sellers, fueled by its strong manufacturing base and direct access to supply chains. U.S. cities like New York, Los Angeles, and Houston remain important hubs, but face stiff competition from low-cost production and direct-to-consumer strategies by Chinese sellers. Los Angeles stands out for its logistics advantages, though overall Chinese cities are rapidly reshaping Amazon's marketplace. So really surprised me. I expected, of course, China to be so high, but it really surprises me how much higher they are to any city in the United States in terms of number of Amazon sellers.
Now,
Yeah.
I have a question about this list. So you see Sheridan kind of towards the bottom of the list. Is that Sheridan, Wyoming? Because a lot of sellers have their businesses headquartered in Wyoming.
Yep. I think you got it, Corey.
Because that was just my first guess there. I know that's a
Legal
popular
entity versus physical location.
Yeah.
But,
right.
Yes.
but nonetheless, I
That's
think
true.
the point Todd was making about China being so large, I see American sellers always worried about the Chinese. Always. Why?
Yeah, same.
They're freaking hijacking all the listings. They break all the rules. China is giving them favorable terms. Their governments is giving them favorable currency exchanges.
Amazon's giving them favorable.
Everything's going their way, basically.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so everybody's sucking at the teat of China right now. And that's a problem. And so I do hope something changes with this. I do think that the political landscape is on the verge of changing on this topic, and that we'll see, a little bit more American protection against this. But I'll tell you right now, Amazon is not doing us any favors right now.
Yeah. And let's be honest as well. You look at the number of Amazon sellers, I'll bet you that's actually not sellers, that's accounts.
Yeah.
And how
you're probably
many
right.
accounts I know some Chinese sellers that go, oh yeah, we've got multiple accounts and we just
I have 15
flop.
accounts.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, you see that when they hijack listings, you knock one off, and then all of a sudden,
Next one.
immediately
It's like
another
whack-a-mole.
one
Yeah.
pops up. So
exactly.
yeah, that's a very good point, Dana. And how many of those are duplicate accounts for the same people or the same company?
Yeah. And the thing is though, is that, and I'm pretty sure this is how Smart Scout does this, is they're finding a unique seller, not necessarily just on the merchant token of that seller, but also the address. So, it becomes hard to find, do they have 50 addresses that they can use there? Oh, I'm sure they do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I thought it's kind of cool too that outside of China here, the top cities in the United States are Brooklyn is first, which I think
Makes
is
sense.
common knowledge.
Yeah.
Miami being second is pretty cool though. I
Yeah.
would have thought maybe Los Angeles would be second.
There
but
are a
Los Angeles is actually
ton of
third.
Amazon sellers down in Miami.
Oh, yeah.
ton.
Oh yeah. Probably a lot of people from LA went to Miami because of favorable taxes in
That's
Florida.
true. Yeah, that's very true.
Tampa used to be at the top of that list, which is where I hail from, and not even on there, which is surprising.
Yeah, I don't think. Let's keep going. No, not on the list there. That's the full list there. So on your point, Dana, I think you mentioned it about this becoming more and more of a political hot topic. I think you're correct, because there's right now in the entire world, there's a major pushback against globalization and globalism with, America first, UK first, Italy first, your country first, basically is a movement that is going around the world,
which I fully support.
I do as well, because I think you should, obviously you have to be worldwide and think globally, but putting yourself first in your country first is definitely important. So I could see not this changing, but there's going to be a lot of waves in politics on this. Whether anything will be get done, that's a whole nother story, as we know, with the efficiency of government. But some things will happen, whether they're good or not, will remain to be seen.
Yeah, agreed.
I am optimistic.
Yeah, you are. I am also optimistic, but I'm tentatively optimistic.
Yeah, cautiously optimistic.
Cautiously optimistic. Yeah.
The question is, whatever gets done, is it the right thing to do, and is it helpful? Because a lot of times the government is 5 years behind or whatever the case when they finally finish a law, and then you're like, well, that isn't even a thing anymore.
Yeah,
or whatever. And then,
well, there was a smart politician that the other day said he might get rid of income taxes and replace it with tariffs. And if that shit happens, we're in great shape as an Amazon selling community.
Yep.
So
no matter no matter what your opinion is, whoever you're voting for, just the idea of Trump as the president, Elon Musk in charge of cutting waste, and then Kennedy in charge of food and health, that just kind of blows your mind to even think of that.
I can just imagine Musk over there. He's like, yeah, and if you guys don't opt into the hell yes government, you're out. I finished this 26-hour biopic, and man, that was an interesting read, guys. That dude is crazy. And
he is crazy. Yeah.
So what do you, I think that we're going to see a lot of tribulation on import duties, no matter what happens.
Yeah. It's one of those topics, and we mentioned that last week too. Trump is in favor of tariffs, and then the Democrats pretend to be against them, but
haven't made
in
changes.
reality they just kept all the tariffs pretty much that Trump had implemented. So it's one of those things that government likes to use. We've always used it, and it's not going away.
That makes money.
Yep, absolutely. All right, guys, any other thoughts on any of the topics we covered before we wrap up?
Not just a shout out to Smart Scout. I think they got a cool tool that shows you, data about categories and seller locations. So, it's definitely on my radar for top 5 tools in the industry.
Yeah, same.
Smart Scout's awesome for sure.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, I've been a customer since almost day one for like over 3.5 years at this point. We use it every single day. So
yeah, awesome.
Yep, for sure. I'll throw this comment up there as one last comment. Direct access to supply in China, ability to make very high counterfeit, very hard to compete, which I mean
is accurate on certain listings, right? I mean, there's an infamous reseller brand at this point now. I think it's called The Ordinary. It's a cosmetics brand, and products do incredibly high volumes, tens of thousands of units per month. And at one point, there was about 70 or 80 sellers across most of their listings, and they were selling the product at such a low. I mean, they were selling it at like $4 below cost of what a real unit would go for. And if you went on Alibaba and searched The Ordinary, you could buy knockoff Ordinary products for like $4 or $5. I mean, dirt cheap. And they just had such a problem with those counterfeits. And I know that's the case, unfortunately, for some brands.
Yeah. So I didn't add it into the news for us to discuss, but you brought that up, so I'll mention it real quick. One of the articles is about how people are finding the same product, or the same product, could be a counterfeit, same product on Amazon and on a Temu, ordering from both, getting the Amazon one right away, and then when they get the Temu one, returning it to Amazon to get a refund.
That's really schmucky, guys.
That's
really
just lazy people.
It's very
lazy, but
I mean, it's brilliant for a con artist. That's a brilliant method of doing it. But yeah, for sure,
not very ethical in my opinion.
No, not at all. But there's a big Reddit thread about it. It's happening.
Of course,
unfortunately, and they're going to be making. They make tons of counterfeits. We know that. They're all over Temu, Shine, TikTok. And so people are going to be taking advantage of that, unfortunately.
Yep. Oh, look, a dog of Amazon.
Yeah, that is. I hate when I see the dogs of Amazon. Dude, Bezos and them are obsessed.
I
dogs.
like seeing the dogs of Amazon when it's a review that's been disappeared.
Yeah.
That's the only time I
Yeah.
like seeing the dogs of Amazon.
My dog's a Vizsla. You can only see his head. I can't tilt my camera, unfortunately, but he's a year old, and I run him 6 miles a day. The dude is a beast.
Nice.
Jeez.
Very cool. All right, real quick, we got another question here. My thoughts on that
Story
to
on this
start
one.
Amazon wholesale from Gabe question. I would say $3,000 to
50?
$5,000 to do wholesale. You know, you want to make orders that are at least $500 to $1,000 to get some good pricing. But what do you think, Corey?
Yeah, I mean, I used to say 3 to 5K. Realistically, 5 to 10K is ideal in my opinion. The more you have, the better.
Always.
Obviously, you're going to spread that out over multiple products and multiple orders, but 5 to 10K, I feel like is a sweet spot.
Yeah, because you got to reorder too, right? Before you
Yep.
necessarily sell your products. So you got to have enough money to reorder before you get the money back from Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a private label guy, but I'm going to endorse the wholesale model here for a brief moment. I think it's easier and faster to start, and sometimes more profitable.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm going to arbitrarily say 50K just to give an answer, even though it's not. I'm just going to say 50K. 50K.
I
just gets
would
started.
agree with a
nice
private
round
label.
number.
50K would be very helpful to launch a private label.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
All right,
150.
guys. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate everybody coming on the show.
Appreciate it.
All right.
Be here.
See
Do you
you
mind
guys.
if I plug my other show that starts in 5 minutes?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. The My Amazon Guy show starts next. Come and ask Noah Wickham any Amazon question. Go over to the My Amazon Guy channel. Thanks, Todd.
Nice.
Appreciate
Jump
seeing you
over
guys on
there.
here.
Check it
All
out.
right. Good to see you,
Hey.
Steven.
All right. See you
Corey.
guys.
Appreciate everybody watching. Have an awesome day, and we'll see you next Friday.
Cheers.